So again, my name is Dr. Dale Brown. I need to start better probably introducing myself. I like to refer to myself as the wild doc. I love being out in nature in the wilderness. That's the primary reason, kind of chose that and got nicknamed that. But I believe that herbs and nature and God's medicine, God has created. I'm actually thinking about this. Give me a thumbs up or not. Incorporating like Ezekiel 47:12 into a lot of what I teach. Let fruit be for food and leaves be for medicine. I believe that God created medicines for us to use no matter what was going to face us in the future. He knew everything that was going to take place in the future. And the reality is he knew we were going to be dealing with this supposed coronavirus. And the reality is the coronavirus, there are many different strains of the coronavirus. And in fact, coronavirus has been well established to be one of the primary causes of the common cold. So just about everybody's had a common cold. So most of us already been infected with one form or another of a strain of coronavirus, all right? There are more severe strains they consider, like the SARS, acute respiratory syndrome, those types of viruses. So we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be going through it. This is information I've gathered. I believe that the information needs to be given out to the public to be able to decipher and deal with the flood of media and pharma and government, push of these scare tactics. I really see them as scare tactics. I'm not worried about it whatsoever. My family's not worried about it. You know what? And if this virus was to spread, the one that they're talking about, supposedly being more virulent, more deadly, which they don't even know how many people have been infected with it in the world. And the reality is it would be kind of a miracle, but yeah, God's not on their side. But it would be a miracle if they somehow found the first case of this new coronavirus strain that came from eating animals in a meat market in Wuhan, China. And we're going to go through actually there's some pretty, people say, you're a conspiracy theorist, and I'm like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy realist. When things are really going on behind the scenes and we know it, and I'm going to point that stuff out to you. There are coronavirus vaccines. They've been testing them, folks, for a while now, over 10 years. And there's a big problem with them. But you'll like what people like Peter Hotez, who's supposed to be I don't even know if he's a virologist, what he is. He's gotten Gates Foundation funding for, tropical diseases and vaccines. I mean, the guy, he makes money off of sick people, and promoting this type of stuff. So we're going to talk about a few of his quotes, but I look forward to just answering some questions. Hopefully you guys take this as valuable information, but you need to do with it what you feel you need to do with it. If it speaks to you, if it helps you, that's all I want to do. With these videos, I want you to have and gain a better understanding of the current situation here with the coronavirus. I want people to make better educated, informed decisions when it comes to any kind of health choice whatsoever. And I'm doing that as a good Samaritan, maybe you could call it. I like to say that this is not Dr. Dale here, a chiropractor saying, oh, medicine's always bad. I'm saying, listen, we need to realize that the pharmaceutical industry is extremely corrupt. We need to realize and understand that we've seen this over and over with bird flu, with SARS, with MRSA, with the swine flu, with, there are so many, with Ebola. And the money gets shuffled into the hands of Big Pharma, and it's all said and done. And we're going to actually touch on that briefly. So here we go. Let's get into this stuff. So coronavirus infections more than just the common cold. So we're going to get you these links. If you TWD right now, you'll get the link to the website, thewilddoc.com, where I'll be posting. My staff did not have time because I've literally been preparing up until the very minute. Actually, about 5 minutes after 1 here in Tennessee is when I finally was like, okay, I'm settled. This is what I want to put into the PowerPoint, and this is as much stuff as I think we can go through in this time. So a lot of this stuff, I'm going to briefly go over. Here you go, coronavirus infections. They're the common cold. Human coronavirus viruses have long been considered inconsequential pathogens causing the common cold in otherwise healthy people. However, in the 21st century, two highly pathogenic coronavirus, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, that's SARS, and the Middle East respiratory syndrome coronavirus, MERS coronavirus, emerged from animal reservoirs to cause global epidemics with alarming morbidity and mortality. All right? So one of the statistics I saw in SARS was in China, it was like infected 8,000 people and like 800 people died. But then it went away and nothing was done. And we're going to talk about the experience they have with the creation or attempted creation of vaccines. You could say it's not a vaccine for humans yet, but if they fast track it, we're going to get a human vaccine very quickly. And that should worry people, according to what history has shown us with the potential or attempted development of coronavirus vaccines being tested in animals currently and in the past. So we'll be going through that. Now, one thing let's clear up. Coronavirus is I see this on the news, and I think there may be other coronavirus patents. Identification and basically the RNA, the full RNA sequence, sequencing. You can, I believe James Weiler, James, he did a really good IPAC, Unbreaking Science. He talked about it. There were some things on there, if you watch it, I love and look forward to speaking to him about some of the things that I would disagree with. The replication or the reproduction of this virus, you know what, if it was in humans, it's not like they just somehow recognized the very first couple of them. If it was truly in the meat market for the meat testing, and it's like in a vast majority of the meat they tested this meat market, it's probably coronaviruses that are people just because they got the common cold and they're still going to go out shopping. Mom, dad, most of us do that. And it's not the best thing for society and other people, but the reality is sometimes we just got to get something for our kids to eat and got to go to the supermarket and get some food, all right? And yeah, I guess they eat bat there, but for it to somehow, and the reality is if it transferred from the bat and the person eating it, that person had to be very sick, and then it must have mutated in that one person, and then all of a sudden, now it's infecting everybody, and that to all of a sudden happen with all the coincidental things that have happened in the past, plus the creation, and we will show you solid evidence they did create a coronavirus that comes from bats. They created to be capable of infecting human epithelial tissue in the lungs. They created it in a lab in, I believe, North Carolina. Just wait for that one. And you got links to this, TWD in the comments on Facebook. You can get the links and read all this stuff for yourself. I am just the mailman mailing it and giving you my opinion as I put it in your mailbox. That's kind of what I do. So again, I'm not a virologist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not giving you advice on whether you should be vaccinated or not, or take a drug or not. I'm just saying, here's some information. Do with it what you will. And there's a reason I'm saying that, folks, but I can't tell you why. I'll have to tell you later. Kind of got to get into some legal mumbo jumbo here. They're coming after me. Anyways, attenuated coronavirus comprises of, the attenuated coronavirus is basically a weakened virus. That one's patented. So this is one patent out there. I bet there's more on the coronavirus. There's other strains of the coronavirus. But it's attenuated so they create a vaccine from it. Okay, so that's what this patent. So the reality is it's not like they created it and they patented it and now it's being put out there, but just wait, you'll see. Description, a field of an invention. The present invention, okay, this is a patent, and this is one of them I see going around and everybody's the conspiracy theory, but read into this stuff. The invention is the attenuated coronavirus comprising a variant replicase gene which causes the virus to have reduced pathogenicity. The present invention also relates to the use of such coronavirus in a vaccine to prevent or treat the disease. So there are coronaviruses that have been used and attenuated, quote unquote, weakened, then it can be used in a vaccine that hopefully then won't cause the active disease in the human beings and then hopefully protect them. That's the idea of vaccination, but that's not really the way it works. Stay tuned because you're going to love what I have to show you. So again, these are the patents being shared, and that's where all the conspiracies come. They patented it, they created it, they can't patent something they don't create. No, they can patent things, the genome, basically, the sequencing, they can, if they identify that, they can patent it. Because then if somebody uses that genome and that specific strain and that information, then the lab that identified that sequence and was sequenced it out, basically, they get some reimbursement. They get some money from it because they were the pioneers that sequenced the virus. So that's where a lot of these patents are coming from. But coronavirus may have originated in a lab. You're seeing this on the news. And yes, it may have, and you'll see. There's talk 5 years ago about that possibility. And again, another coincidental thing is the event 201, pandemic exercise highlights real. Really ironic that the medical, I forget whether Johns Hopkins, which hospital it was, major hospital, talking about they used coronavirus as this pandemic strain last year in this exercise that was going to kill everybody. So it's just irony. And of course they say, well, we didn't have any suspicion that the coronavirus would be the virus. It just coincidentally was the coronavirus is what we chose. So again, the irony of the situation, you could say. But here we go. Okay, this is a article about the journal Nature research study that was published by the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, all right, in November 9th of 2015, all right. They engineered a virus with the surface protein of the SHC coronavirus 14 coronavirus, okay, found in horseshoe bats in China. Now, if you go back to it, I haven't been able to go through this stuff because I'm not as sciencey as James Weiler with IPAC, okay? I'm not as sciencey as he is, and he knows this stuff and how to navigate it well. He said on his live that the strain that currently they're suspecting as being the virulent, deadly one is what they're talking about in the news right now. And again, deadly is in the eye of the beholder because it's probably been circulating throughout if it came from natural progression. And I do want to talk about the idea that maybe this is a way in which, you know, the pro-vaxxers and the governments and the pharma are like, hey, we can get the anti-vaccine community. They all love conspiracies. So if we put it out there as if the lab created it and as if we can scare the people, well, fear drives people to do things they wouldn't normally do. So if we want to get anti-vaxxers to take a vaccine, so what we need to do is call it a conspiracy and say, yeah, we created it, and then they'll all think it was a conspiracy to create the virus that's more pathogenic, that could kill people, so that out of fear, they'll go and get the vaccine because they don't know what else to do. Do you get me? I hope you all get that. I mean, I bet they would try that. They'd be like, they love conspiracies. They would bite hook, line, and sinker on the idea that this vaccine or this virus that's deadly, so deadly, that they need a vaccine because out of fear they can get people to do things they wouldn't normally do. That's why they use fear with parents in the hospital or doctor's offices to fear them, drive fear into their spirits, the fear of losing their child, the fear of making the wrong choice, and yet in the deep within the spirit of the mother, I shouldn't vaccinate my child right now while they're sick. I shouldn't vaccinate my child at all. But out of fear, they get them to make the choice that they wouldn't normally have done. It's fear that drives people to do things they wouldn't normally do. So I wouldn't put it past them. But that's my theory, okay? And I'm sharing that with you. But that's the theory. Now, this is real life. This happened. So James, and some people call him Jack, with IPAC, Pure and Applied Knowledge, Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge, and he did a live on this. And from what I understand, listening to him, I believe he said it was a bat genome. So the virus was one in bats. Ironically, in 2015, the study was published that North Carolina University at Chapel Hill created a virus that could then, from bats, be able to infect human beings. They created it. Now let's look at some of the quotes from some of these experts that actually have a good head on their shoulders. The debate comes down to how informative the results are. The only impact of this work is the creation in a lab of a new non-natural risk, Richard Ebright says, a molecular biologist and biodefense expert at Rutgers University. Biodefense expert says, you just created something that's unnatural that only creates risk. It does nothing for us. Okay, going on. But Barrick and others argued the study's importance. The results moved the virus for a candidate emerging pathogen to clear and present danger. It moves the virus from a candidate of emerging pathogen to a clear and present danger. Oh, really? Now it's a clear and present danger. Yeah, you created it and you engineered it to be able to infect human beings. Good work. Nice. Really, really just great. It could have done that. It had the potential to move from bats, they said, to humans. So they had to engineer it a little bit so that it would finally infect human epithelial lung tissue where this is attacking people. Okay, so there was a bat strain coronavirus created in a lab, engineered in a lab to be able to infect human tissues, and if it got out of the lab, it could be doing what it was doing now. Am I saying that's what's happening actually? I don't know. I don't have any evidence of that. But this is really stupid what they did, I would say. And what's ironic about the whole situation, there was a government moratorium on this type of research right here that was published. But because this study was already funded through the National Institute of Health, through the U.S. government funded it. The U.S. government had already funded it, and it was already partway through, so they just said, even though we're going to ban what you're doing, go ahead and finish what you're doing. Now maybe we're dealing with the problem when they should have said, you know what our common sense says? We shouldn't create and engineer viruses in labs to be able to infect human beings when they're not infecting human beings. Maybe they should have done that, but they didn't. So, and I'm not saying that's exactly, I'm just saying, hey, information, read for yourself, have fun with it. All right, CNN Health, vaccine for new Chinese coronavirus in the works. Woohoo! Oh my gosh, outbreak, and suddenly there's a vaccine in the works. And just beautiful timing, right? And some people may. And sadly, Christians, if you're really saying this, go read your Bible some more and read about Revelations 18:23, all right? In the end, all nations deceived by the merchants who were selling drugs. Selling drugs. Pharmakeia, Greek biblical text. Just go ahead and read it. So the reality is this is not God in the works. Like God's like, oh my gosh, I didn't plan for this. Luckily, scientists will be able to create, and I'm going to allow the intelligence of human beings to create the virus vaccine within months of the virus spreading that was, anyways. That's not the way God's not behind the most lying, deceitful organizations and companies in the world, and he actually warned against that in the Revelations. All right, going on. Every virus has its challenges, but coronavirus can be relatively straightforward vaccine target. Nice work, Peter Hotez. That's again, a mouthpiece for the vaccine industry. Peter Hotez says, it's easy, it's straightforward, no big deal. And he goes on saying, it is remarkable, it's just remarkable that scientists are able to start developing a vaccine for a virus that was identified less than a month ago, he said. Yippee! Now let's actually go into the science and research. Before we do, into the coronavirus vaccine research, let's go through some prior research that I think people would like to know about. Now, I'm seeing this flood I had this, I didn't even share it. At first I'm like, golly, a lot of people are getting a lot of hits because they did discover that this study on the influenza vaccine, the flu vaccine, found that there was a minute increase in coronavirus risk, which was actually like a huge increase in multiple different viruses, all the other infectious diseases, so respiratory infectious diseases specifically. So over the following 9 months, vaccinated recipients had an increased risk of virologically confirmed non-influenza infections. I believe this was out of Oxford University. All right, folks, and I don't know why I said it like that. And it just came out like that. All right, so Oxford University did this study, and guess what, folks? It was roughly a 300% increased risk of kids getting infected with other viruses if they got the flu vaccine. Let's look at the discussion and basically the conclusions. They said we did not observe a statistically significant reduction in confirmed seasonal influenza viruses in those who were vaccinated. So if you got vaccinated, or your child got vaccinated, they didn't have a reduction in flu. And that's been proven over and over and over again. Now, beyond that, we did identify, so they saw no benefit in reducing flu from the flu vaccine, but what they did find that was statistically significant was an increase in non-influenza, non-flu respiratory viruses infections among TIV, the vaccine recipients, including significant increases in the rhinovirus, Coxsackie virus, and echovirus infections. Now, it was like a 22%, but small enough that wouldn't be statistically significant because of the size. But if you had a larger study, you might find that coronavirus was statistically significant, increased to a statistically significant degree. So you can't really say that with this research if you do science, but the reality is you don't just throw out positive findings, that there was an increased risk of illness in children if they got the flu vaccine. Now, if you go into studying rhinovirus, more people die of rhinovirus than they do with the flu. Like they literally... But you have to understand why. They die with the flu, with rhinovirus, with Coxsackie virus, with coronavirus. You don't die because of these illnesses. You may die with them, and because of the virus, it is the last straw that breaks the camel's back. Folks, if your immune system functions properly, and I'm enunciating properly, because it's critically important that we take care of and protect the proper function of our immune system and our child's immune system, our children's immune system, our society's immune system. And vaccines are not the way to do it. This is one study proving that, all right? And even if a vaccine has the effect of giving you antibodies against that virus or pathogen, that's not always a good thing. That's not always a good thing. So watch. One more to kind of hammer it home. I could do multiple studies on this. Assessment of temporarily. And this was a CDC-funded study published in 2018. In February 2018, the CDC partially funded this. All right? This study here, post-influenza vaccination compared to unvaccinated. Among children, the conclusions were this. Among children, there was an increase in acute respiratory illness caused by non-influenza respiratory pathogens post-vaccination compared to the unvaccinated children. Further, research could investigate whether the medical decision-making, I'm not going to read that. Basically, they're saying that like doctors should say that it's not the flu vaccine that makes you sick. You get sick from all the other things floating around because of the vaccine. But they basically give an excuse. But folks, there was no reduction in influenza. So again, multiple studies have confirmed upon multiple different influenza vaccines that we do not lower the risk of our children being infected with the flu. But we do, time and time again, see that if we vaccinate our children with the flu vaccine, that the CDC's funded study have shown, an Oxford University study shows you have an increased risk of your child having other respiratory illnesses, which would include coronavirus, rhinovirus, which is a sinus, because the rhino has a big old horn on the front of his nose. That's why they call it rhinovirus. All right. Now, watch this. Around 2 minutes, I got to check the time. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. I remember it. Okay? Schumer, who's calling for our government to turn the key on a door that holds the door shut for $85 million. Here's the irony of this, though. So Schumer is calling for a state of emergency because of 2 infections, I guess, in the United States. A state of emergency declared by the CDC. He's saying, CDC, declare a state of emergency so we can unlock $85 million. But guess what? Here's the irony in the situation. Here's the twist of this story. Schumer was the one who passed a bill with somebody else that was approved in December of 2019. And now he wants the door unlocked to get the $85 million. Are you serious? Oh my, the Lord Savior, Father in heaven is watching out for us. Thank you, Schumer, for listening to the Lord and Savior and giving and allocating in the government budget $85 million for emergency purposes during infectious disease outbreaks. And all you need is for the CDC to declare a state of emergency, and that budget allocation of $85 million that you got passed in December last month will be available to the CDC to give to the big pharmaceutical industry right now. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, actually, they are making it up. They're the ones orchestrating it. Just the irony of that alone. Like, he even says it. Luckily for me, so-and-so in Congress, we designed this budget, we wanted $85 million for this very purpose, and luckily it was passed in December, and now we need it, so unlock the door. We want our It's basically saying, I put away $85 million of taxpayer money, and I've probably got investments in these vaccine companies, so I want the $85 million to be unlocked, because what the CDC does, it works as a middleman, that they do different things like testing and everything like that, but then they fund pharmaceutical industry scientists to create and test and put out these vaccines. And then the CDC works to promote the vaccine. They're salesmen. That's all they are. And women. It shouldn't be sexist. So, U.S. health officials fast-track coronavirus vaccine. Hope to start clinical trial in 3 months. Wow! How in the world? That's amazing, right? Like Peter Hotez said, it's amazing that science can create it, and it's so simple and easy to create a coronavirus vaccine. Remember, that's what Hotez said. Now, it will take 3 months to get into trial, 3 months to get safety and immunogenicity data. Folks, this is where you will know when you're working with evil and deception. That's a true statement. It will take them 3 months, all it will take, okay? 3 months to get what they call safety data and immunogenicity data, okay? But I want you to pay attention to these next studies that have already been done on coronavirus vaccines in the last 10 plus years in animal trials. Folks, that statement is true, but it's all in how you measure and how long you observe the true safety of a vaccine. Because the way they say a vaccine is safe, all they do is administer it, step back, make sure it's not too deadly. It may have some side effects. It may cause autoimmune conditions. Or it may unlock the key, I want to use that analogy, unlock the key, not the $85 million like Schumer wants, but unlock the key to increase and promote an autoimmune type state, which multiple vaccines are shown to do. Which I think we're going through autoimmunity next month, right?
Yes.
We're going to go in depth into autoimmunity and ways you can help bring down your autoimmune antibodies, help your body heal. So we'll be talking about that next month. But
Well,
March, not February. Yep. So in March, just stay tuned. Get on the email campaign through thewilddoc.com, subscribe here, like here, get on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, you get all the videos. So the way they measure safety is just observing short term after administration of the vaccine. Did the vaccine itself kill the person? No. But I could say hand grenades don't kill people. If all I was doing was giving somebody a hand grenade, but I was tying a string to the pin. And as they walked away and ran out of the length of that string, it pulls the pin and they eventually die. It wasn't the hand grenade, it was way down the road. But the vaccine was what caused them to become susceptible to more tissue damage and greater risk of death. Watch. A double inactivated severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. This is the SARS coronavirus, which again is slightly different. But we need to use, coronaviruses are similar, but yet they are somewhat different, kind of like mutations in the flu virus, all right? The severe acute SARS coronavirus vaccine provides incomplete protection in mice and induces, this is what I want you to pay attention, induces increased eosinophilic pro-inflammatory pulmonary response upon challenge. That's a big problem because your eosinophils are not supposed to be going into your lungs because eosinophils are kind of like guys with big old like rocket launchers. They're like the guys that are flying over the planes and dropping napalm. They're dropping bombs. You're going to kill some people that you shouldn't be killing. All right? See, eosinophils are actually and it's changing, evolving. I mean, there's studies that I even just went down a rabbit hole with that you're going to love what I found here again, even beyond the coronavirus vaccines. But eosinophilia, elevated eosinophils, have a role in development of asthma, have a role in many different diseases and problems, autoimmunity. And eosinophilic esophagitis, inflammation in your esophagus, is on the rise and they can't explain it. Again, I'll give you the links, TWD in the comments if you want the links, all right? And then how do they get with the text messaging system? How do we get them that?
I'll put it below for him.
So comment below. Ashley's going to put it in there. You can get set up on our text message because Facebook is censoring me and I can't do those blasts through Facebook, so we have to do it through text message right now if you want to know when I'm going live, like these videos. So
you just text TWD to
but,
the number I'll put in.
Yep. You text TWD to the phone number that she's going to put in there. So here's the deal. Eosinophils are like your big guys, big guns, bombers, all right? There's a lot of collateral damage. They're needed to get rid of. They're used for typically, and they're not just this, but primarily what science had found, they were primarily used for killing off parasites. But ironically, if a parasite's in there, they can also modulate the amount of inflammation and tissue damage and protect and preserve the life of a parasite. So they're really smart, all right? So it's not so simple, but to simplify it in the wrong environment and wrong situation, which they're seeing in these studies on this vaccine, the eosinophils release a lot of pro-inflammatory cytokines, pro-inflammatory oxidative stress, and that's used as bombs to kill off these multicellular organisms. All right, normally our immune system with a virus is going to work like this. We have these big macrophages, we have big immune cells that come in and they can gobble up another human cell. They can engulf that cell and kill it, or they can mark it for death and destruction before the virus gets to replicate much more. All right, and that's simple. That's just a sniper, all right? That's the way we have those immune cells to snipe, okay? But then we have eosinophils, because of these multicellular organisms. So my hand and arm is like a parasite, a worm in there, okay? And eosinophils, they're not big enough and they can't, you like that sound effects? They can't eat the whole parasite. So what they have to do is come in and they go boom, 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 boom. Just imagine that, you know. And they're like killing multicellular organisms, but they're using bombs and grenades, and there's a lot of collateral damage with that. So then what do you get? You get a lot of tissue damage. Not so good. Not so good if it happens in your lungs. Now watch, all right? Importantly, aged animals displayed increased eosinophilic immune pathology in the lungs and were not protected against significant virus replication. These data raise significant concerns regarding this coronavirus vaccine safety and highlight the need for additional studies of the molecular mechanisms governing the vaccine-induced eosinophilia and vaccine failure, especially in more vulnerable age animals, models of human disease. So they haven't gone to human trials, but government's asking them to fast-track human trials on a coronavirus, but the past history of the science on this is not so good. Prior immunization, if you got the vaccine, prior immunization with severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS-associated coronavirus nucleocapsid protein causes severe pneumonia in mice infected with SARS. Folks, this is not good. This is Journal of Immunology, 2008. Like I said, more than 10 years ago. Immunization with SARS, coronavirus vaccine, leads to pulmonary immunopathology on challenge with SARS virus. Now, we're going to go through this one in great detail. To simplify it, though, for y'all, this is what the science is going to show us. If you get immunized, or in these animal trials, if this occurs in humans, this is really bad. And take the eosinophilia effect that was studied in those other two studies, all right? And proven through those two other studies with coronavirus vaccines. If the coronavirus works in this way in human studies with the new coronavirus strain, we're looking at a big problem for those people who get vaccinated, all right? And we've already seen this and are seeing it, in my opinion, we're seeing it in the flu vaccine, and I did a rant on that, all right? And Ashley will probably be able to link it, put it in the description in the wilddoc.com, but I did a rant on this. There's a difference. You want a strong mucosal membrane health IgA, secretory IgA immune response that is enhanced and benefited through exposure to the influenza virus and Coxsackie virus, SARS viruses, coronaviruses. They're all going to work in a similar manner because this is the way our body is designed. If it comes in through our mucosal membranes, we're able to identify it, build up a wall, and be able to neutralize it without inflammation upon subsequent re-exposures. Not reinfections, re-exposures. And we're going to go through that. But with a vaccine, you bypass your mucosal membrane barriers, you inject that into the bloodstream, and you sensitize the body, causing a hypersensitivity immune programming. That's a bad situation.